Hello, welcome back to another week of the European Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar, Hoke here. Good to see you guys. It's been a little bit of time off. Tom Jacobs, it is great to see you again, my friend.
I was just saying to you before we came live, it was quite emotional. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a month since we did a show
It
together.
has.
Um, you know, Ryan and Brian did great jobs standing in for you, and I'm very grateful to them. But I miss you, buddy. I missed doing our European tour show. Obviously, we've been talking while you've been away, but generally tries to let you have a bit of peace and quiet on your trip to Hawaii, which I hope was great. And we're back to a good week of golf this week.
Absolutely. No, it was a great time away. Enjoyed the islands. No DFS out there. Didn't really pay attention to too much. So fun to see you guys do so well. Enjoyed the shows, get to listen to them. And then, of course, having one of our home hearted European Tour players taking home a PGA Tour victory just yesterday in Lucas Herbert. So was excited for his performance. Just he is so good in the wind, Tom. I
Mm.
mean, what is that, two, three? His last three wins have all had some serious conditions to them. So it was great to see him come through on Sunday. So enjoyed that for Herbert. Any takes on the PGA side of things before we dive into our week?
No, I echo what you say, really. I think that I don't know, looking back, why I wouldn't have picked Herbert. Like, I think you kind of need to pick up on that. It's one of those ones where you think, I feel like I've missed it. And I think it was one of those ones where I really liked someone like Nick Hardy that week, and he was in the same place. And I was like, right, well, that's a good person to pivot off of and things like that. But, there was some good golf there. I think Russell Knox was really good coming out of the bad weather break there. I think he's going to have a really good chance in Mexico this week. Um, I was all in on Brian Gay, and he got destroyed by the Thursday round. So I'm not too bitter about that, as people might say on Twitter. But yeah, no, I think it was a good week. I was actually surprised there wasn't more Europeans up there. I think that would have been an easy thing for people to say. Obviously, GMAC was up there. Seamus Power played well, but I think he's more of a basically an American at this stage, Seamus Power. But Thomas Beach did okay, didn't he? Tied 22nd, but that's just Thomas Beach altogether. So it was it was nice to have a break from the European tour after a real weird run of events, I guess. But I'm glad to be back at the Portugal Masters.
Yeah, there was one other European Tour golfer by the name of Guido Migliozzi who did tee it up as well there. He actually
He
looked
he did
quite
tee it up.
strong.
That's true. Yeah.
But through 54 holes, Guido was, I would say, in the mix before a Sunday 77. I mean, he shot, I think, co-round of the day, or no, not co-round of the day. He was the 65 on Friday was one of the better rounds. Pendrith had went nuclear that day. But Sunday did not go Guido's way. But guess what? He's teeing it up at Mayakoba. So, the odds are getting longer. He was like 140 to 1 when I saw this morning. They're just juicing it up for him. So one of these days, I
You
enjoyed
coming,
rooting
bud?
him. Yes. But also Patrick Flavin was fun to watch.
Mm.
Was rooting him on strong. Unfortunately, the back nine on Sunday didn't go our boy Flava Flav's way, but excited for him to get in the mix and hopefully find some status. But with that being said, would like to make sure if you are one of our podcast listeners, if you prefer that platform, we're available across all the different applications. You can find us Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. We'd love if you rate, review, subscribe for us there, and on YouTube, feel free to give us a rating as well and like the YouTube. If you see Tom Jacobs in the comment, he's always in there lurking, answering any questions for us. Always appreciate your time doing that, Tom. And with that, let's jump in. So, European Tour is back. Like you mentioned, we're at the Portugal Masters, Dom Pedro Victoria Golf Course. Last time here, George Coetzee was our winner. So, it's an interesting golf course, I think, in the sense that, it's pretty wide open. I wouldn't say the rough is all too hurtful. We've
There
seen
is no rough.
different. Yeah, I mean, you could spray it quite wide, and it's not going to make too much of an impact. Might even be better than being tight to the fairways. One of those type of courses. I would say that it's been a ranging set of skills. I wouldn't put George Coetzee and Stephen Brown in the same category by any means. So it kind of leaves us with an open board, with a decent bit of value in the mid range, and both of our cards will reflect that. But what's your thoughts on the course and I guess field strength?
So first of all, I thought the field was pretty good actually. I was surprised. I guess that little breakaway for a week or so kind of helped that. And there's not much golf left, is there, on the European Tour? So I guess guys are still trying to get their starts in. Matt Wallace was, is an overwhelming favourite, I guess you could say. He's 16 to 1 to Laurie Cantor's 20 to 1 in places, but he's as short as 11 to 1 over here. I guess that's a reflection of what he's been doing on the PGA Tour, but when he's come back to Europe, he's not been as good. Laurie Cantor, for me, was the most obvious selection for this tournament. But 20 to 1 is, if you're happy with Laurie Cantor at 20 to 1, there is nothing I will say to put you off. Like, I think he's an excellent bet. He's got all the things I want him to do. I just can't do it. There's just other maidens at bigger prices that I'd rather take on.
That was the thing before, even going. I think Cantor ultimately, it's the number. I still took a hard look at 20s, but to bet somebody that hasn't broke through. I mean, if you look at his performance here last time out, finishing second to George, and then also I know you talk about some correlation, but success there as well. So it was, and you look at that, and then what, a fifth and a sixth, or a fifth and a fourth his last two times out. Great driver of the golf ball. I just think he's one of those guys that you can back at 3 to 4 times the number in the most difficult of fields, and he has the same likelihood to win almost as it does here.
And I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record in saying that, but I say it pretty much all the time about every golfer, and then I end up never betting them because they don't quite go to the price I want them to. But the link that you alluded to there was the Dubai Desert Classic, and I'll go into why in a moment. But he was fourth there in 2021. I think he had another decent finish there in the past as well. I might be wrong, but the DP World Tour, he finished tied fifth last year, and like you say, he's probably going to be 66 to 1 for that. Maybe 50s if he's in really good form. If he's really good form, maybe 33s. But whatever happens, he's going to be in a bigger price than he is here, and I don't think that his chances are any greater. Like, I don't think, like I've said about Laurie Cantor in the past, it's not he needs a weaker field to win. He just needs to get out of his own way, and that could come on any golf course at any time. So yep. I will just take the price when that comes. I was a little bit surprised not to see John Catlin on your board. I thought that might be a guy that you'd go to. I know that there's been this kind of overriding feeling with Catlin that he prefers a tougher test, but I think he's broken away from that now.
Yeah, he's one that immediately, one of the, I guess, people that I seek out their boards or betting cards is our friend Bradley Todd. I know Catlin was on his short list this week, so definitely wanted to do a second look. I mean, you look at his recent form, 20th and 11th. So he's found it a little bit. He's just a tough one to peg, in my opinion. So I could see it happening here. But I think the way I really, in this type of event, it's just the board's so open, in my opinion, that I just kind of kept a lighter card in some sense. Maybe DraftKings will spread out the player pool, but really honed in on some recent form, specifically if you want to see that around kind of that approach game. So I felt there was a couple other guys that I'm going to end up kind of siding with in similar odds. Who's the first guy that you are betting this week?
So the first guy that I came to, and I'm almost talking myself out at the moment, but the first guy that I said to you before even looking into it was Adrian Arnaus, and I put Cantor and Arnaus in the same sort of boat, in a sense. They're both maidens looking for their first victory. Both had a couple of cracks at it. Arnaus, recently at home in the Open de España. But again, it was just that correlation with the Dubai Desert Classic, which I'll obviously go into. I just want to bring it up in front of you so I don't butcher it, because the way I even wrote it to you was kind of the worst thing. But he was third and ninth at the Dubai Desert Classic. And when you look back, barring Stephen Brown, who has also finished tied elsewhere in Dubai, Bjerregaard, who's done the same, and Lowry, all the other winners of this event have got a top 5 in the Dubai Desert Classic. Richard Green and Quiros have won both events. Westwood's had a playoff loss and another second in Dubai Desert Classic. Sullivan and Harrington have got a second there. Lowry didn't have a top 5. He had 11th and 12th and 2 top 5s at DP World. So every golfer you go through has just played really, really well at the Dubai Desert Classic. And that is where Arnaus has had 2 of his better performances. Tied third and a tied ninth finish is nothing to be sniffed at. So for me, the way I looked at it and what I was going to try and apply to Laurie Cantor if I was going to bet him was that if they do get out in front because their tee to green game clicks, as they both can, there's less worrying holes down the stretch. Like, there's less pressure on trying to win. And I think that could benefit Adrian else. But then when I look at it, and there's other guys here that I'm going to come on to as well, it kind of maybe isn't the value that I was expecting, but I thought it was decent enough price at 41.
Yeah, if I'm comparing golfers in the range, the exact same argument is made for Robert McIntyre because of his Dubai performance. You're getting a little bit bigger number on both Arnas and McIntyre because of recent play. I mean, Arnas, what he had that T2 not too long ago, but it just eventually, I think I ended up just siding with, instead of picking between those two, picked for the golfer who may have not had the same type of corollary performances, but a golfer who has arguably been sneakily one of the best, I would say, approach players across the European tour over the last, 2 years. I mean, Fabrizio Zanotti is very good with his irons. And we see his trending performance. The last 4 times out, Italian Open 27th, BMW PGA 20th in a strong field, arguably probably the best performance of any of them. 12th at the Open de España, 4th at the Valderrama. 4 events in a row, building up that form, gaining with the irons in every single one of them. At the Olympics, he was 35th. He's just really played exceptionally well. So, not enough to decrease that number where it potentially would be in a little bit of a weaker field, but 40-1, I just thought that was too good for Zanotti when I'm comparing. And I love correlation, but trending form, especially with the irons, getting it low here, I just would rather take that number on Zanotti.
Zanotti is a guy that we've looked at. We've mentioned him for most of the year, and since we've been doing the show, because his numbers have been exactly like we mentioned Sean Crocker every week. They're guys that hit the irons the best. Maverick Ancliffe, guys that just keep striking their irons week after week after week, and he was doing it without any results, and Shubhankar Sharma was doing it without any results. And suddenly, towards the business end of the season, both of them have kind of started piecing it together. And you mentioned the lack of correlating form, and I get very caught up in that thing. Like, that is my thing. Like, out of the two of us, you're a data guy and a stats guy, and I'm the guy that kind of looks at where they've performed well in the past. But when we say Zanotti hasn't done that, he was 27th in the Dubai Desert Classic this year, but he shot 76 in the third round. So I'm pretty sure he was banging contention before that as well. So I think that's a little bit of bonus to add to that. My only concern with Zanotti was maybe liked it a little bit tougher, maybe a bit lower scoring.
Yeah.
But he's hitting the ball incredibly well, and that's the main thing.
You're going to have to make a lot of birdies this week. And, it's mainly going to need some correlation with that putter, finding the ability to find the cup, where maybe that's not Zanotti's biggest strong suit, I would say, or else he would have capitalized more on the irons. He has yet to really have a good putting performance the entire year. So you're banking on that, of course, to be able to get to 20 under par, which, last year was more than enough to win. Years past was not. But I think, ultimately, I just going to side with the more predictable stats and hope to run hot on the greens. Who else in this range is up for your card?
So the kind of thing that's put me off our now the most is that we've got George Coetzee here. And I know there's always a thing of defending champions struggle and it's a tough thing to do. And I respect that, but he's gone win 3rd, 6th, 7th here. And that's not obviously all of his finishes, but they're his standout ones. He's actually the best in the field in terms of stroke average at scores over the last 15 years. Never worse than 31st in 8 starts. He's just incredible. He's going to turn up here and he's going to play well, whatever the form. Now, his form hasn't been particularly great. It's not been standout, but he's gone 24th and 46th in his last 2, and that's not, you would never expect him to compete at Valderrama. It's not really his type of golf course. 24th the week before is probably a better indication of what form he's in. He was favourite here when he won because he was coming off the back of 2 really good finishes in South Africa. Hasn't had that chance to go home and just flat track bully that tour. And that's given us a bit of juice in the price, 40-1, or, I think it was bigger over there earlier in the day. This price range it seems ridiculous. I feel like he should be where Peters and Andrew Johnston and Minwoo Lee are on the board. Is that we know that George Coetzee is a winner, like a multiple winner, very, very successful. There's no doubts about his credentials. Probably could have won more, but that's ridiculous. So he's won plenty. So 40's one about a guy that we know absolutely loves the course. I thought was big enough.
Yeah, he's one that you just has a knack for winning. I guess it would be maybe the best way to say it. You're not
A
surprised
lot
when
of
he
it's in
rips it
South
up.
Africa, right? You know,
Correct. Yeah.
it's
What weak fields and the Sunshine Tour, like he cleans up. But he has, obviously, had success in the big tours too. So I think 40 to 1 is plenty. When you look at him, I know he was Ben Coley's headline selection too, which is always a good sign. For me, this is a little bit speculative here, a little bit leaning into your side of things and leaning into a little bit of course history for a golfer who tends to find his way at this specific course. Um, Eddie Pepperell, last times out, if you look at here. So first off, we'll do the correlation. 11th is his best finish in Dubai. But here at Don Pedro, 6th, we had him second in 2018 and then third in 2017. So 3 consecutive very strong finishes here. Pepperell seems to be one of the biggest field players on the entire tour, often finding success at links courses out of zero form. Um, if you notice his Twitter, I thought it was quite funny. Do you buy into the fact of, Eddie on Twitter? Absolutely, probably not, is a profitable thing to think about. But did laugh when he said a winless year comes to an end with a 39-point Stableford victory. What character the boy showed. So maybe coming off a little bit of a high, playing up in his hometown on a little Stableford event. But you partner his irons the last time out in Spain were better than what we've seen. He does take it low. He's got a good putter when he gets hot. And that course history, that's just kind of my angle for Eddie. And he's in that mid-50s range too.
Two times that he's made the cut in his last 2 starts. He finished 6th and 15th in strokes gained approach in the field. So his irons have been good when he's made the weekend. I'm not sure on those missed cuts whether they were decent iron weeks as well. They may well have been. So certainly, we're just looking at the 3 best people on the course in history. George Coetzee is number 1. Eddie Pepperell was number 3. And the guy that I'm going to come on to, Andy Sullivan, is number 2. Andy Sullivan is a guy that doesn't need to be playing well. I know we say that about a lot of people, and it seems like a bit of a lazy narrative. You want to see something right, and he withdrew it with Valderrama after shooting an 80, so that's a concern. But when you look at his win, when you look at his second, you look at his 8th place finish here, none of those weeks was he ever coming in as the overwhelming favourite, the overwhelming best player in the field, can't miss. Like, this is just a golf course he's played well at, and we know what Sullivan's MO is, right? That he's just a birdie fest guy. He needs to get off to a fast start. If he's not, he's disinterested. And I expect him to do that. That both him and Coetzee and probably Pepper on your behalf as well, they're course history plays. But there are certain events in a year where that pays. We just see one at the Bermuda, different tour, obviously. We're just about to see one again in Mayo as well. And this is the same sort of level on European tour. There is just no reason to go against the course history when it's shown through so much.
Yeah. Guys at the fields. And you're right. I think of Sullivan as somebody that, he's 11 under after day 1 on a course that everyone should be ripping apart, and still somehow, finds himself with a 3-stroke lead. And we saw it in Dubai, right? The last time when Roser ended up winning, I think that was the last birdie fest. I remember Sullivan just ripping through. I mean, he had, where was his 6-stroke win when he was 27 under? That was impressive too. So it's in the bag of tricks. Yeah. Yep. So I can see that there. Now this is where, for me, I thinned out a little bit of the card and really ended up on some longer shots. But I think the conversation around Sebastian Soderberg off of back-to-back T2s is a conversation to be had. I mean, he might, however, be allergic to actually winning a tournament, because it seems that back 9 on Sunday, he loves the water, loves a good triple bogey. But man, you got to think one of these times it's going to fall for him.
The thing that gives me hope in that respect is that we've seen him do it before. Like, if this was Cancer and Arnaus and he'd had those 2 chances finishing tied second, he hadn't done it and he'd thrown it away, that I'd be like, okay, well, it's going to be hard for him to come back for a 3rd time and really do it. But this is a guy that has actually won. This is a guy that's actually beaten Rory McIlroy in a playoff. When you look at his Challenge Tour victory back in Kenya, I think it was. He beat Lane Gask, and tied fourth there was Dylan Fratelli and Christian Bezuidenhout. So this is a sort of class. I'm not saying he's anywhere near those golfers, right? But he can beat those people in the mix. So I wouldn't be too worried. I know the evidence over the last couple of starts suggests you should be worried. But I just think there's enough in there. And, he was seventh here, what was it, back in 2017? Was never really in the mix, but shot 64 on the Saturday to put himself up there. The 27th, he started off really fast. He shot a 66 in round one and ended with a 64 as well. So it was the middling rounds there. So two different ways of going at it. But what we can take from that is that he can just go low enough on this golf course. He has the requisite skills to perform here. And that's what we really need to see.
And backed on those two performances were excellent ball striking, gaining about 2.2 strokes gained off the tee plus approach in both of those events. So to carry that over back-to-back weeks, you hope even a week off he stays hot with that ball striking. And can absolutely, the DraftKings contests are still not out right now, but Soderberg is absolutely somebody in that mid-range that I will be playing substantially. You mentioned to me off the top, your favorite selection across the board is in this range. It's not Guido Migliozzi, but it is his roommate. Tell us why you're on Renato Peratore.
He was a guy that I was on at least once in the shows in your absence, maybe twice. I can't remember now. But he played really well last time out without actually getting rewarded there. You told me a nice tidbit, which I'll let you go on to in a minute. But he was tied 13th in Dubai, which was obviously a good indicator. I'm going to get hung up on that. That's fine. But he was fifth here after 54 holes in 2018 and ninth after 54 holes in 2019. So although the course form doesn't look great with 57, 73, 27, 21, that doesn't tell the whole story. Like, he's been in and around the lead both his last two starts here. And he's just been piecing together some just really, really good golf. And when you think of Paratore now, I think I sort of squashed the bias I had against him, where I thought he had to have this sort of tight tree line course, and he's actually quite good on open layouts, and his wins have come on those sort of events. So I think that he's got absolutely every chance of going there and getting a third European Tour victory on a course where people probably don't expect it from him. And I thought 66-1, especially when you're going to add what you're going to add in a minute, was really good value.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about off the top, on a course that's going to be a birdie fest, you have to be a quality putter, or at least you don't have to be a quality putter, but you need to perform on the greens in order to compete. Data Golf, great, database to utilize, released their skill ratings over the last 2 years. They combined after you have 50 rounds in their database, about 400 golfers that fit that. And Renato Peratore ends up being their second ranked putter in the entire world. The tilting thing about Paratore's putting is he wears a glove when on the greens. I
do that, so I don't care.
Okay, maybe it's your thing in common then. But
that's not a good thing for him. But
there's the Aaron Rye 2 gloves that he wears, like Tommy Gainey, and then Paratore with the one glove on while he putts. So, but no, he's an excellent putter on the greens, up there with Bezaden, who is another one who's ranked right up there. So, no, really big fan of Peratore in his game, and he's going to need that putting, which he did last time out, was excellent again on the greens. But so I think that is an intriguing one there. The one for me end up siding with is Callum Shinkwin. And I just think about it from the sense of if you can attack this off the tee, if you can just be the best guy, on the tee, since there's nothing to really hold back, you are going to give yourself, a decent advantage. And you look at what Callum Shinkwin does, I would argue he is right there side by side with probably Laurie Cantor as the best driver in this field. You could say Nikolai Højgaard potentially is up there. Roman Langaske, I thought he was on a short list potentially. He's a great driver of the golf ball too. But man, Callum Shinkwin is phenomenal off the tee. Ball striking the last couple times out has been well, and he just loves to take it low. I mean, the last two times, he performed exceptionally well at Valderrama ball striking and at the Alfred Dunhill Links, which were the two of the most difficult events that we've had from a field strength perspective in a little bit of time. So I value those, more than the tail ends of the Spanish swing. So Shinkwin, 80-1 just feels pretty long in that sense. Last time we saw his victory was when Robert McIntyre also won. What would that have been? The Cyprus swing.
Yeah.
So, been a little bit of time. Just think he's got that one notched off, similar to, some of the other guys. You say once you get that first one, like that, but he just feels too long for this range, in my opinion, for what he's played.
And the course history again, a bit like Paratore, there's some hidden stuff in there. He started off pretty fast. I've got the things up here. So he finished 17th on his debut, but he was second after round 1, 10th after round 2, 8th after round 3. So he was inside the top 10 for 3 rounds, and this was way before he was, what the kind of player that he is now. And again, he returned the next year, shot 65 on day 1 to rank 3rd. And it was pretty poor over Thursday and Friday, and he ended up finishing 46th. But I guess when these guys, they're developing players, right? And Shinkwin's got to that level now where we kind of expected him to get to be a European Tour winner. He'd done that last year, followed up with some decent results this year. And I'd rather look at then what he did in isolation for a couple of rounds on golf courses, because he wasn't the complete package then, whereas he's getting closer to that. So I think Callum Shinkwin sneakily, like Paratore, is a very good play in this range. Now, disclaimer. Okay, and I want this to be very, very clear to people.
Okay.
If you've made it this far, then
big words.
Listen to this. Big flashing things. Producer, throw some sirens around me. Okay. I got told off in the comments because I gave 100-1 winner in Danny Willett, and it wasn't on the recap board. Now, the only person's fault that is it's not on the recap board is me. Okay, I am asked to give my selections in, and I give them, and then sometimes I change my mind towards the end. Okay, and I'm not going to make the producer make a new board just so that you don't have to listen. Okay, so listen to me carefully now. Okay, Alexander Levy was someone that I liked. Not so keen on him now, but he has won here and he has finished 4th in Dubai. So there's every reason he's been someone that's popped up an awful lot. But my final selection of the week is Pep Angles. Okay, now, I guess the first thing that people are going to say is it was a kind of a flash in the pan, right? His second place finish last time out. He was 9th in strokes gained approach. But Pep Angles is increasingly becoming a decent player at this, maybe more at the Challenge Tour level, but certainly in weaker fields on the European Tour as well. And when you actually look at it in isolation, he was 2nd on his last start. He had a 16th at the Scandinavian Masters, but he was 1st at the Andalusia Challenge last year and 2nd at the Open de Portugal, which obviously, this is where we are this week. So his 3 best results on the OWGR website, 2020 he was 1st, 2020 he was 2nd, 2021 he was 2nd again. This guy is just improving as a golfer. He was 8th in 2020 at the Magical Kenya Open as well. So he just seems to be on a bit of an upward trajectory. And I just think that he can carry this on. He was 8th here in 2018, which I think, actually, when you go back and look at it,
12th that year.
12th, sorry.
Yep.
He was 12th that year, and he was 8th after 54 holes, which is what I was trying to think of. He shot 265s that week. So I think there's still some value in Pep Angles at 150-1. So take Alex Levy out, put Pep Angles in. Don't blame the producer. Don't blame me because you didn't listen. It is here, 150-1 Pep Angles.
Well, congrats to Alexander Levy on the win this week. So I'll tee us out here with the last selection. And I think we can both agree he's been quite the trending golfer from the underlying statistics. You mentioned him having a win, both Dubai and at this course. The journey back, I would say, for Alfaro Quiros has been an interesting one at the least, because, winner in 2017, from 2008 to 2011, won every single one of those years, but just has not found any sort of consistency, right? I think that's fair to say, over the last, 2-3 years of watching. But lately, we see 4 made cuts in a row, 27th, 39th, 46th, best finish of the bunch, T11th, just this last time out. You pointed out that his Sunday definitely did not go his way, shooting 73. He was 64, 69, 65 in the 3 days prior. So, of course, had himself a fair shot to get that W in his country, but ultimately did not go his way. But if you just look into his ball striking, once again, these strokes gained approach numbers are off the charts. They didn't have the laser data last time out in Spain. However, if you go by what the caddies inputted, he gained over 10 strokes on approach that week, would have led the field substantially. The next closest one was Nino Bertazio, who was right around 8 strokes on that tournament. So I just think there's a lot of upside for the peripherals of his game. And of course, has done it here, has done it at the corollary course. And he just goes low. He does have that in his bag of tricks. You just need it to continue all 72 holes. But I was surprised at the number. 90-1, still got some juice in it.
So there's 2 guys here. It was Lucas Bjerregaard and Alvaro Quiros. So I just think because they won here, that they were slightly less valued than what they possibly could be. Now, I think that's slightly less the case in Quiros because I think he's been playing consistently well and he's been hitting the ball consistently well. So despite the bias of the fact that he may not be able to get over the line as much as he was, certainly not as much as he was in the past. But I normally say in this situation, just wait until he's in a deeper field and take him at 150 to 1 or 200 to 1 or whatever. But we haven't got those events left, right? If you're waiting for those events, you've got to wait until next year, and anything can happen over a winter period. You can go home and put the clubs down for 6 weeks and good again. So I think if you want to be on Alvaro Quiros in a comeback win, it's going to be somewhere like this because there's no, like I said to you earlier, there's no real danger. Like there obviously are some holes that can cause you trouble, but if you're making double bogeys down the stretch in the Portugal Masters, you have an actual problem. There is no courses that catch you out or holes that catch you out. Sorry, you've got a proper mental problem. So I think that Quiros has got a great chance. Maybe the number wasn't quite enough, but then you say that, I mean, he's 90-1 about this as a guy that was he a 6-7 time winner on the European Tour? I know it's a long time ago, but we're talking about a guy that was contending in Players' Championships in the past, or about a guy that was, European number 1 at one point on the race to Dubai. So, what more do you want? I know it's a long time ago, but he's also won in 2017, which is much more recent than 90% of the field. So, Alvaro Quiros, absolutely love that.
Yeah, and that kind of rounds out my thoughts on the entire tournament. Without DraftKings salaries out, I don't think it's fair to really rip through the bottom of the field because I don't have that many that stand out. The one golfer for me intrigued on teeing it up this week in the world is Eugenio Lopez Chacarra. I can't roll my R's. I can't say it. Can you do it?
I can't. No, you're much better than I was. He was a guy that we exchanged a tweet earlier, and I said to him in my Coba, I thought you were going to steal my line about who's in this field, and you didn't, which is great. So Jackson Bra is playing
there
for the first time since Wentworth last year, and he's got an 8th, I think, on this golf course, and the top 15 in Dubai, and he was really sort of coming out into his own on the European Tour before that injury, and it was a devastating injury, and I can't quite remember what it was. Maybe you do. But he was out for a long time. And I think the positive thing I'm taking from it is it feels like he's taken a steady approach to coming back. It's not like he's had loads of setbacks. It's just been, right, let's shelf it for this X amount of time and then come back fresh. And I think it speaks volumes that he's coming back to the Portugal Masters where, one, he's played well in the past, and 2, where there's not a threat of too much trouble. Like, I think it's a resort course, he can play nice golf, and it's an easy way to get back in. So I think that if those DraftKings prices are out, I'd say to play Jackson Bra. I think he's probably someone that could go low on the first day with the excitement of getting out there again. But like you, I really didn't find an awful lot down here. I thought Ollie Wilson was playing good golf again and maybe could go well on the course that suits. But yeah, there was nothing to get too excited about.
Yeah, the last thing before we close out here, very excited for the Challenge Tour finals this week.
Yes.
That will be loaded field. I mean, they have the top 45, I believe, is what they go with, fighting for their cards here on the European Tour. You saw Nineveh ended up deciding to play there. Just a list of talented guys we've talked about, pretty much probably almost all of them at one point throughout the season as they've made some starts there. So we'll be able to see that core group that's going to make the leap to the European Tour next year. So make sure you follow that. And with that, Tom, let's review your card.
Yep, so I'm starting it off. I'm still not quite sure on Adrian Naus, but Adrian Naus and George Coetzee at 45-1. Andy Sullivan 60-1 with Sebastian Soderberg at 55-1. Really, really like Renato Paratore 66-1. He's my favourite bet. And Pep Angles, who's not on the recap board, at 150-1. over Eldix Levy, who is on the recap board at 90-1. My fault, Mr. Producer.
So for me, Fabrizio Zanotti, 40-1. Eddie Pepperell, 50-1. Callum Shinkwin, 80, and Alfaro Quiros at 90-1. That'll do it for us on the Portugal Masters. Best of luck to everybody this week.